Thank you, Minister, for your presentation. Certainly, 20 minutes is a long time. 5 minutes is not such a long time. But a few days ago, Ontario Indigenous Women's Advisory Council, you mentioned this as well, released a statement about the epidemic of intimate partner violence in this province. I think it'd be fitting for me to share some of their information from their statement that they had, and my questions will be based on their recommendations. I know the rates of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada were described as an epidemic 10 years ago by the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous People. The violence against women in Canada was described as a deliberate race, identity, and gender-based genocide by the National Inquiry into MIW2G+. Since the National Inquiry took place, Chair, the proportion of femicide victims who are Indigenous has substantially increased, going from 5.4% in 2019 to 2020 to 8.1% in 2022 to 2023. Despite Indigenous women and girls making up 5% of women's population who are female, they make up 20% of all women and girls killed in gender-related homicides in Canada. These stats and real-life risks become even more extreme for Indigenous women who identify as 2GSOBTQ+, and Indigenous women with disabilities. Indigenous women in Ontario are 3 times more likely to be murdered than non-Indigenous women. Minister, can you say, with the 3 times more likely, just because you're a First Nation woman? Why do you think that is more higher than a non-Indigenous woman?
Well, I think that there's a variety of reasons, all of them unfortunate. Obviously, I highlighted a number in my remarks. There's the kind of vulnerability here that when we take a look at policy options, we have to address. The starting point would be with the Ontario Native Women's Association. As you probably know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Cora and the work of UNWA, and I consider her a friend. And I am very aware of her statement to your intervention, Sol, and I can assure you that I will be following up on that position statement and addressing and hopefully taking on some additional perspectives from Cora that would guide any future additional resources, monetary and otherwise, to strengthen the work that they're doing.
Thank you, Minister, for that response. MPP Mamakwa, please. Thank you.
One of the things you mentioned as well, sexual assault centers. These are very specialized centers. Yeah. I know it because I know there's only one in Sullivan. I know you worked in First Nation nursing stations. I know there's none there. Yeah. The specialized rooms that are required, the specialized separate fridges that are needed. And a lot of times if there's assaults or rapes that happen in the First Nation reserve, such as, could be Fort Hope where you worked, or could be different communities, you have to fly out to be able to, by medevac or, by Orange to be able to do those cases. How can you improve access to sexual assault centers, like, say, for example, in Solicout or even some of the First Nation communities?
Well, I know how you feel, and I think we actually agree to some respect. I talked at other committees about the increasing role of the province in certain services and programming on reserve where we would otherwise not play a role because they're fully funded and jurisdictionally a result of the province, in the carriage of the federal government. But there isn't any question that in the absence of those centres, and on that you and I agree, on reserve, they wind up in towns and cities for which the province is responsible for programming and services.
Or they get thrown away.